just as a friendly reminder, all week long we have been talking about, all month long, we have been talking about suicide awareness and prevention, and all of the different things that we can do to continue the conversation on one of the most leading causes of death for young people. And, we talk about, on average, there are about 130 people that commit suicide a day. And that's that's just too many people. So today we have Mr. Charlson Gaines. Many of you may remember him. He joined us last year, and we had some really candid conversations about suicide prevention. And so we wanted to continue that conversation. And without further ado, what I would like to do is allow Mr. Gaines to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about what he does.
Well, thank you so much. I'm Charlson Gaines, and I am grateful to be here. Suicide is so important and so impactful. The truth is, everyone that's watching, everyone that you know has been impacted by suicide, even if you don't realize it. What I do is I'm a corporate emotional intelligence trainer, and I love talking about suicide because suicide and emotional intelligence really go together in a sense that when you can elevate your emotional intelligence and elevate essentially your emotion regulation skills, you're less likely to become overwhelmed and become suicidal. So I'm a corporate emotional intelligence trainer. I'm a disabled veteran. I love talking about suicide. I can tell you that during my career, I'm a disabled vet. I spent 20 years in the Air Force, and then I spent a lot of time working for the military in a civilian capacity. And I've lost a lot of people to suicide. I can tell you that when I go through kind of the list in my head of people that I've lost to suicide, I can never name all of them like in one thought process because there's so many of them. And then there's also other people we all know who maybe did not die by suicide, but their overwhelming misery did contribute to their death in some manner. And that's why we're having these conversations.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for the great work that you do. So we talk about prevention and we talk about intervention, but you like to talk about something called proactive prevention. Can you share some more information on what exactly is proactive prevention?
Okay, well, I will say if I were to describe proactive prevention in one word, that one word is empathy. Now, when I talk about proactive prevention, what I'm talking about is not waiting for the warning signs. There's lots of talk about warning signs. And actually, if you were to just Google suicide early warning signs or immediate warning signs, you will find dozens of suicide warning signs. And then there are certain things that you can do, and we can get into those later, right? Things that you can do when someone is suicidal. However, if you know what to do when someone is suicidal and you do that at the last minute, but you never paid attention beforehand, what you're doing is being reactive and meeting the minimum standards. Let's move away from reactionary minimum standard suicide prevention. So when I say empathy is really what proactive prevention is all about, what I mean is building real relationships. Building the kind of relationships where the people in your life know that you value them, and they know that you care about them. Because those are the two primary factors that contribute to suicidality. It's thwarted belongingness and perceived burdensomeness. And in smaller words, what that means is you feel extremely lonely and worthless. I can make you feel like you actually matter to me in not so many words. And it is so much easier for me to tell you that you matter to me today than it is to talk you off a ledge tomorrow. So let's do that.
Absolutely. And that's very profound. And it's so true because sometimes all people need is just for folks to just kind of check in on them and make sure that they are seen and remind them that they matter and that they're important. And there's so many people that just feel a sense of loneliness. and they don't know who to talk to. They don't know how to talk to them. But I think that that's where we can actually step in as those active and responsive bystanders and just do what
Yes.
seems to be like really easy to just say, are you okay? Are you all right? How's everything going on in your world? So I think that is um, a great approach. So how do we take that approach in terms of being these proactive prevention individuals? How do we take that approach past just hello, how are you doing? How do we identify whether or not we need to do this with everyone or with someone that's at risk?
Well, the proactive part is building real relationships based on empathy, based on connection. So yeah, you want to do that with everyone. And I'm not saying to make everyone your best friend. I'm saying that every time you interact with someone, let them feel important. And I'll give you a simple example. Yesterday, when I was in the store, there was someone stocking the shelves, and she said something to me like, hey, how you doing? And I looked her in the face and I smiled and I said, I'm doing well. How are you doing? And so in that moment, there was a connection. I'm not going to say that I saved her life, but what I am saying is that I'm not talking about some new monumental effort. I'm talking about you being real, understanding other people's perspectives. And so when you have real relationships, you know what's going on in other people's lives. Like, so for example, I know that you're doing a lot of traveling. And so what I could do in the morning is I could reach out to you and say, hey, are you getting rest today? I don't have to ask, are you suicidal? I can say, how are you feeling? And by doing that, you're like, okay, he knows I've been traveling. He's been paying attention. He cares. And so I said before that extreme loneliness and worthlessness lead to suicidality. In other words, the desire to die.
Mm.
And so all I'm really talking about doing is letting people know that they're not alone. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It could be really, really simple. Really simple. And think about it. How are you doing? What's going on? Send someone a text, send someone a DM. If you've got something on, just invite them. When you post something, just tag them in the post. There is very little effort, but what's more important than the quantity of effort is the consistency. I
Mm.
cared about you 10 years ago. I still care about you today. And you don't have to earn that. I care about you because of who you are. And so it's
Mm.
just this constant communication. And then when I know what's going on in your life, then that should prompt me to check in on you. You've always been a very happy person, but guess what? Maybe your dog just died. You lost a family member, got a divorce. Maybe something financial, you lost your job. So I don't have to get out my checklist of suicide early warning signs and see where you match. I can just say, hey man, I know you're going through this. You want to go check out a movie tonight?
Mm-hmm.
We should do more of that. And the truth is, the more we do that for other people, the better we feel ourselves. Everybody wins.
Absolutely. And it's very important to value those real relationships. And like you said, I checked on you and we talked 10 years ago, then why are we not talking today and I'm not still checking on you? And again, those connections are so important, especially right now because we're still in the era of COVID. Where people are even though people are slowly starting to venture out, there's still a lot of people who are a little reluctant to kind of be so social. And I know that I'd seen quite a few different statistics and some research in that short time that talked about the amount of suicide increase during the pandemic because so many people were just locked in and by themselves and no one was checking up on them. People really, in my opinion, confused that whole social distancing thing. And they took that literally and not kind of just picked up a phone call or did FaceTime, and just kind of checked on someone. So I think that that's important. I think, like you said, empathy is the key to suicide prevention. And when you are establishing some of that empathy, that's just as simple as saying, hey, I care about you. I want to know how you're doing and I'm checking in on you. So I really do appreciate that. So I had some additional questions that I wanted to ask. when it comes to family and friends, how can we step in? Because we're talking about like what we see in the community, just kind of checking in on family and friends. But what about family that's constantly with you, that's around you? Because sometimes it feels like you can check in too much, right? So how do we find the balance when you're the family member and you just want to make sure that you're okay, especially when so many young people today are spending a lot of time alone in isolation because they're either gaming or maybe they're on social media, but they're spending a lot of time by themselves. So how much is too much?
Again, that's empathy, understanding their perspective. So, for example, one person is gaming all the time, and maybe they don't want me to interrupt their gaming. But if I brought them a hot plate of food, oh, that would mean the world to them.
Right.
And then another person, maybe they're gaming all the time, but they would like to have a real conversation. Don't interrupt their game. Maybe it's some competitive or something, but just send them a text like, "Hey, after you're finished, do you want to do this?" Because when I'm constantly asking you if you're okay, then you begin to feel like a burden. I'm actually contributing to that feeling. But if I ask for your help, now I'm empowering you. If I ask you to do something with me, now I'm empowering you. Your presence has value to me. If I'm continually doing things for you, you're going to feel like maybe you're a burden. Why is this guy always asking me this? Do I come across as helpless? Do I need to go do something with my life?
Mm.
And in reality, what's going on is maybe the person that's asking you all the time, they really care about you, but they don't understand you well enough to appreciate your perspective. And that's the connection between emotional intelligence and suicide prevention, is the empathy, is the social awareness. And so what I'll say is, I mentioned extreme loneliness and feeling like an extreme burden. Listen to those words.
Mm.
Listen specifically for that verbiage. I'm not good at anything. My phone never rings, no one ever calls me. So if I were to say, my phone never rings, no one ever calls me, you don't respond, well, you don't call me. Okay, that's the exact opposite. What you do instead is you think about it, put some real effort and just say, okay, well, what are you doing Saturday? And it could be something simple. And I could say, well, I want to FaceTime you so we can catch up. And you say, no, I don't really have time. But maybe what I did was I let you know that I value you.
Mm.
Because if I say, what are you doing Friday? And you say, I'm busy, you don't owe me anything. It's not like, oh, well, I offered to take her out on Saturday and she said no. I'm not doing this for me. And so when I hear those words, and people hear them quite often at the workplace,
Mm.
someone who's a star performer, someone who's crushing it on the performance reviews, but they seem to always want to work alone, and you hear them make comments. You guys only talk to me because I get these things done for you.
Mm.
No one ever calls me. Actually, every weekend I just sit there by myself because no one wants to hang out with me. That does not mean I'm suicidal. That may be an expression that I'm lonely. Because you're gonna go from lonely to desperate to hopeless to suicidal. And the same thing with worthlessness. The only thing I'm worth to you is this. So if I were to stop doing that, you don't care about me, I don't have value. Even members in your family, if you were to hear something like that, even in an argument, don't dismiss it and say, oh, you're just saying that because you're angry. No, maybe I'm just telling the truth because I'm angry.
Mm.
And so what I'm not going to do is argue with you. I'm not going to say, no, you're wrong. I do care about you. Okay, now not only are you worthless, you're also wrong. What I'm going to do is maybe ask for your help for something. I'm going to store that. I'm going to remember, okay, you think that you have no value to me. What are you good at? Oh, you're good at putting things together. Okay, or maybe you're a good cook and I know that you enjoy cooking. And so I will accidentally be running late and want you to make something for me. It's things like that where you make them feel as though they have a value and worth in your life.
Exactly. Exactly. Again, all of it definitely correlates right back to, excuse me, back to that empathy and expressing to those individuals how much they matter. And I liked how you um, shared the different levels, like the empathy or the sadness, the loneliness, the unworthiness, long before you even get to a place of suicide. And if we can address an individual when they're feeling lonely, when they feel like they don't matter, and we remind them that we do see them and that they do matter, hopefully that will then create a shift in that person's thought process, and they realize for themselves that their lives does have value and that they do matter to people. And it's not because of what they contribute, but it's just because of who they are as a person.
Yes, yes, exactly. And when you talk about maybe, turning that trajectory away from suicidality, what's really going on is when you're feeling that extreme loneliness, when you're feeling that despair, you just want the pain to stop. But you know how it is. The more you think about something, the more prominent it is in your mind. The more you want the pain to go away, the more that emotional pain can become overwhelming. And that's the way the brain works. It's neuroscience. And so when I demonstrate that you have value and you have worth to me, what happens is I put a pause on that and I open up a center of your brain that can process more information. So we get more positivity, more optimism. And it has to be consistent. They have to consistently be aware that they have value to you. And so when the brain opens up to those thoughts, to those inputs, then they're more readily available to have that conversation, the deeper conversation. What's going on? Why are you feeling like this? But I cannot have that. I can't have that conversation with you for you to just share your whole life with me when you're overwhelmed and bawling and the tears are flowing.
Right.
And if you've already made up your mind to take your own life, well, you're not running around with the signs saying that. So I just need to be proactive, pay attention. What are the words coming out of your mouth? And if I really know you, I notice a change in your behavior. So they say one thing, for example, is when someone becomes agitated a lot, that's a warning sign. But if it's someone that you think is angry all the time, the warning sign might be a new level of kindness. When you really know them, then you know, okay, these are the things that happened in your life recently, and these are the changes in your behavior. Before I begin to ask certain questions, I'm going to already let you know one way or another that I care about you, that you're not alone, that you have value.
Right.
And then if I don't see what I'm looking for, a change in behavior, something, well then yeah, I'll ask the question, are you suicidal? Are you thinking about harming yourself? And that's one of the hardest questions to ask. But let me let me put this out there as a challenge to people. You might not like what I'm about to say, but your hesitation to ask someone if they're suicidal is there for a reason. You're hesitant because in that moment, you're prioritizing what they're going to think about you over the possibility of saving their life. So when you understand that possibly looking stupid is a good enough reason to save someone's life, then you can get over that fear and that anxiety.
I was talking to Mr. Joe Crumpton the other day, and we were talking about that same thing about being able to ask that difficult question of, are you suicidal? And one of the things that we talked about was that individual who asked that question has to remember that in that moment that they have to be courageous in their conversation, because it's a very uncomfortable conversation to have to ask someone. But then the other thing is to be prepared to receive the answer that you're going to get, right? Because what if that person actually says, yes, I am suicidal? What do you do with that information? And how do you proceed if you're not a clinician, but you know that that person is now reaching out to you and asking for help?
Well, a couple of things I want to hit on. First of all, is you say being prepared if the answer is yes. A lot of that is in your mindset, whether it's fear or responsibility. For example, if I say, are you suicidal? And you say yes, and now I'm scared. Oh my goodness, now the ball's in my court. What am I going to do? And you said, use the word courageous. You can't be courageous without fear. So yeah, you're going to be afraid. It's going to be an anxious moment if they say yes. What you cannot do is begin to kind of fake some kind of expertise. What they need from you is authenticity and availability. There are people who, in that moment, what they need more than anything is a hug. They need a hug. Yes, I'm suicidal. You're like, wow, I didn't realize. And then you just put your arms out and just wrap your love around them. You know, you can go to some 18-step program or whatever. I don't know if that's in one of the steps or not. But if that's what they need in the moment. And so then what happens is they feel the warmth. We have these mirror neurons, right? That's why when you bump your head on a wall, I grab my head and say, ow, because I'm reacting to what I saw you do. But when I feel that hug, I feel your slowed heartbeat. I feel your body. There's a lack of fear. And so then what happens is that, again, back to the neuroscience, it opens my mind up to more possibilities than just taking my life. And so in that moment, you've demonstrated that you care about the person. That's the first thing. Do you actually care about them? And they may be asking that. You know you do, but do they know that you do? And how important is it? And how important is it that you care? Again, goes back to having real relationships. And so that's what you do is you just think.
That is,
Go.
Charleston, that is so true. Those real relationships are so valuable and they make a huge difference. And to one individual, just knowing that someone is there for them with something as simple as a hug could take the weight of the world off their shoulders. And you know, sometimes we hug individuals, we don't know what space that they're in at the moment, but that one hug, like you said, could really be life-changing. I mean, it's like, wow, I didn't know that you cared about me. I didn't realize that my life mattered. And it's those small things that are so important as we talk about levels of connections, real relationships, real friendships, healthy relationships, and all of that are proponents. How does a person go from being suicidal or having suicidal thoughts back to happiness? How do we get there?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that. That's what gets me excited. Because, so first of all, what I'm going to do is talk about what I call the happiness baseline. And if from 0 to 10, if someone is a 0, that person is suicide may be imminent or likely. They are that miserable. And someone who's a 10, they're as happy as they can possibly be. And so a lot of our programs are focused on getting someone from a 0, from suicidal, to a 1 or a 2.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's not enough. It's not enough to say, okay, now that you're not suicidal, go back into the world, be miserable, hate your life, survive, and don't die. That's not the goal. How do we get you moving towards the 10? How do we get you moving towards happiness? And what I think of is what's called PERMA. Mm-hmm. And PERMA is a part of the theory of sustained happiness or well-being, part of positive psychology, right? And so I'm gonna break it down kind of the way it is in the literature, then I'm gonna give you a much easier way to do it, just another easier way to see it. So the P, it's PERMA. The P is for positive emotion. Cultivate positive emotion. E is engage your strengths, do what you love. R is relationships, enhance your relationships. M is meaning, do something that has meaning to you. And A is accomplishment. So again, PERMA, positive emotions, engage your strengths, enhance your relationships, do things with meaning and value, and have a sense of accomplishment. Now, the more often you do those, the happier you will be. So here's what you do. Do what you love with people you love, and do things that have meaning and value to you. The more you often you do that, the happier you will be, right? And so for a lot of people, there's a self-awareness piece. What do I love to do? Well, go answer the question. What makes me come alive? Go answer the question. And then you enhance relationships when you do that with other people that have the same values as you. And the people who are closest to you have the same values. And so now let's take it back to why people die by suicide. Extreme loneliness. Well, if we're doing what we love with people we love, then we're defeating the loneliness. It's simple as that. You can't be lonely if you're doing things that you love with people you love. And then there's the incompetence, extreme incompetence, feeling like a burden. Well, if you're doing things you love with people you love that has meaning and value to you, it gives you a sense of accomplishment. You cannot feel worthless while continually feeling a sense of accomplishment. The two don't go together. And so when you engage in things you love with people you love that have value and meaning to you, you quantitatively move yourself from suicidality to happiness. It's simple as that. And the key is that you don't wait until you're suicidal. On the scale of 0 to 10, you don't wait till you're a 0 or a 1. If you're feeling down compared to how you felt 2 months ago, do something you love with people you love. And it doesn't happen. I'm not talking about saving the world. I'm talking about we can go to the movies. We can go do a paint and sip. We can go on a hike. We can watch some Netflix together with some pizza. I mean, I'll give you an example. A very dear friend of mine missed my birthday. And what did she do? She said, well, first of all, she called me. She said, happy birthday. And then what she did was, because she knows what's important to me, from her home, several states away, she had a pizza delivered to my house.
Wow.
Look, we didn't save the world together, but
no. the thought was so great, right?
Yeah.
Something so small.
Yeah, and it's those kinds of things where I just felt, so I already know the value of our friendship. She means so much to me and vice versa. But man, getting that pizza, that kind of elevated me a little bit.
Right.
And I didn't have to show any warning signs. I didn't have to make any threats. It was just, I know you. I know it's important to you. So let's just be there and let's just do that. It can be anything. It can be anything. If I love you and I love doing this thing, and so do you, we have the same values, then let's just go do it. Don't overthink it. Just go do it.
Yeah. And the smile that one simple small delivery of pizza
Yes.
probably put a smile on your face larger than life. And it's those little things, again, it's those little things that just remind us that we matter and that we're important. And for me, because I think it's a two-way thing. Like I love doing nice things for people. Just random nice things, just to let you know I'm thinking about you. If we haven't spoke for a while, or if we talk every day, if I'm a friend to you, I kind of know some of the things that's going on in your world. And even if it's not like super heavy, you're just working on some things. And I just want to say, hey, listen, I came up for air, and because I did, I thought of you, and I wanted you to know that I am, and this is how I'm doing it. And I just send you a little something so small and so thoughtful, could be, such a kind gesture. But again, for that one individual, it may be like, wow, this person is really thinking about me. And it's really easy to make someone smile, right?
Yes.
That's an easy thing to offer. Empathy. It's so small. It doesn't cost really anything. That hug doesn't cost anything. That's such a small thing, but it can mean so much to that individual, and therefore becomes priceless.
Yeah, you're definitely, you're 100% right. And a barrier that most people have is the fear of being judged. What am I going to look like to you? And so because I'm afraid of being judged, I'm not going to do anything. Or it's something to the effect of, I'm not that powerful. I'm not that impactful. And so what I'm doing is I'm deciding for you that what I have to offer isn't good enough instead of giving you the opportunity. And so we have to get over that, and we have to realize this isn't even for us.
Mm.
It's for you, or it's for our relationship, but it's not for me. I'm not offering you something for me. I mean, that sounds kind of selfish and narcissistic. I'm offering something for you. And when we engage in something together, that enhances our relationship. And I'll give you the perfect example. You and I haven't spoken in a while. I see your posts, you see mine, but when you reached out to me for this, regardless of my self-esteem or confidence before, I was like, yes, yes. That reminded me that you value what I have to say. Right. And I don't need to be suicidal
Absolutely.
for someone to remind me that I have value to them. Because what we're really talking about in regards to proactive prevention is not waiting for those early warning signs, not going down your checklist, especially in an organization like the military, where everyone has seen the list. So if anyone is suicidal and they don't want anyone else to know, they can hide. But you can't hide from me if I love you and care about you and I know what's going on in your life. Oh, you're happy as hell all the time. But guess what? I know that this just happened to your grandfather. I know that this just happened in your finances. You're hurting. I know that. So I don't need the checklist. I can just look you in the face and be authentic and be available. I don't have to be powerful. I don't have to show up with the superhero with the S on my chest. I don't have to show up with all these magical tools. Like you said, the smile is so powerful and it's easy to do. All I need to do is just show up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm sure all of the friends that and the people that you connect with are probably so happy to have you in their lives. You just shared that, we see each other's posts all the time. And I'm like, man, Mr. Gaines, he is so awesome. Like all of the different things. You have no idea, just me personally, how many times I've seen something that you've posted and it literally made me smile. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. He's so dope. So I really do appreciate you. I really genuinely do. I appreciate you. And I'm always going to invite you to things that I'm doing because, people can really connect to you. They can relate to you. And you're so authentic in your concern for people as a whole. You just want them to be okay. And you take that extra step to just remind people that you are going to be okay. And I'm going to be here to kind of check in on you from time to time. And that's so important. So that key word of today, not just intervention, not just prevention, but proactive prevention. And that's what we've been talking about, proactive prevention, what that looks like, and what we can do to kind of, express levels of empathy, to be there for one another, to just show genuine care, right? And concern, and that individuals matter. I mean, it's just awesome. It's just awesome. Again, empathy is the key. So I think we're kind of closing out on such a positive note. What else would you like to share before we close out today?
Well, a couple of things real quick is I always talk about proactive prevention, but that is not to minimize the emergencies. Mm-hmm. So regardless of how skilled you are, being empathetic, positive psychology, emotional intelligence, regardless of all that, you should still know some of the steps if someone is suicidal. So first of all, you have to be able to ask the question, are you suicidal? And if they say yes, you have to be authentic. And when I say be authentic, I mean, when someone says yes, and your first initial reaction is like, damn, they can see that's authentic. They can see that's real. Mm-hmm. So don't fake it, right? And then you show them that you care, and that could be a hug, that could be anything. You have to go with the moment. You can't pull out your checklist. You can't pull out your manual. Go with the moment. What do they need in the moment? And then when they understand that you do care, now they're thinking, okay, at least I matter to this guy. And then their mind is open to more things, such as a safety plan to get through the night, putting distance between themselves and lethal means. How are they going to do it? Do they have a gun? Can I hold it? You're going to hang yourself? How are you going to do that? Can I hold that? Things like that. Oh, you were going to take some pills? Since we're such good friends, I already know what pills you have. Okay, well, can I get those? Oh, you're supposed to take one at 10. Okay, well, here's your one, and I'll bring the rest of them back tomorrow at 10. And so we can't, as much as I talk about proactive prevention, that's not to minimize what happens when it's go time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it really is. And the proactive prevention part is so important, where it's almost go time. There's a space where they're thinking about it and the space where they're going to do it. And in that space, maybe they think of you and they say, you know what? Before I do this, let me call Tanya. You see, that's where the real relationship aspect comes in. That's where the empathy comes in. But if we've passed that phase, you need to know what to do.
Yeah.
Because you're literally saving someone's life. And we will never minimize that.
No.
So that's very important. But if I were to give some last words, these are always my last words because I mean it so much from the bottom of my heart. For everybody listening, I hope someone records this so that you can share this with your friends and family. You deserve to be happy. Everyone that knows you, loves you, and cares about you wants you to be happy, but they cannot make you happy. If they could, they would have already. So they need you to do it for yourself. And so when I say that, understand that by elevating your happiness, you're also elevating the people around you. And you don't know how many of the people around you need you to do that. They need you to be happy so that they can be happy. And then you think to yourself, but I'm so miserable. What am I going to do? Well, it takes work, right? I gave you one thing, right? Do what you love with people you love and do something that has value to you. That's one thing. There's other things you can do. The more often you do that, the happier you will be. But it's a process. You're not going to do that one time and then never be sad again. Understand that that process takes work and you are worth the work. You deserve to be happy. Everyone who loves you wants you to be happy. They can't make you happy. You need to do the work and you are worth the work. If you don't believe me, ask someone. You don't believe me, go ask someone that loves you, do I deserve to be happy? And if you trust them, then you will believe them when they say yes. I'm starting to get excited.
I know. I like that. I like that. And I like you are worth the work. I love that. It's a constant reminder. You're worth it. You're worth it. You're valuable. You matter, but really mean it. And I think that those little things are so vital to individuals. So I just say thank you so much. We're going to continue to stay connected. Mr. Charlson, will you let folks know where they can find you? Can you tell us where we're all over the place? Where are you at? Where can we find you?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm on LinkedIn more than anything. Send me a connection request on LinkedIn. Here on Instagram, you can send me a DM. And what I'm going to do is, I might mess this up. Y'all bear with me. I'm going to try to type my email address in the little comment section.
All right.
That might take me half an hour. We never know.
No, you got it. And while he's doing that, listen, if you have not followed Mr. Charlson Gaines, you definitely want to follow his social media, his Instagram, his LinkedIn, because he is just so profound in the work that he does. He's an international speaker. He's an author. He's a veteran. He's done so many amazing things. It's not just suicide prevention or proactive suicide prevention. There's quite a few different topics that he talks about. He's definitely someone that you want to stay connected to. So please make sure you do that. Thank you so much for putting that up there, Mr. Gaines. But I just want to say thank you again so much for joining us. If anyone has any comments that they want to, any questions that they want to ask, please be sure to put them in the comment box below, and we'll try to see if we can't get some of those responses forwarded over to Mr. Gaines so we can get them back to you. But again, we're talking this whole entire month on suicide intervention, suicide prevention. This is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month this September, and we're going to continue the conversation all month long. So be sure to continue to follow us on Interactive Advocacy. And we're going to, at the end of the month, on the 29th of the month, we're going to be talking to Dr. Andrea McKee. You're not going to want to miss this. Please be sure to write down the dates or continue to follow us. It's going to be another dynamic conversation. Again, all month long, candid conversations. We're getting to some of the root causes, some of the things that we need to be on the lookout for, some of the signs. One last thing before we go, I want to make sure that we share resources. Okay, we want to make sure that we at least do that. So Mr. Gaines, can you share some resources for us if you're an individual that's contemplating suicide or having suicidal thoughts?
Well, yes, I believe that the suicide Lifeline recently changed to a 3-digit number. It's 988 now.
Yes, that is correct.
If someone's in a situation where they're suicidal, maybe you're talking on the phone and they say that they have a loaded weapon. That might not be the best time to go kick in the door. I know it's stressful for some people, but sometimes calling 911 is what's going to save their life.
Yeah.
And then on the proactive front, do things like see if there is some maybe anger management, emotional intelligence training or coaching. Are there mental health facilities in the area? Like, be proactive. When you see someone is sad, don't wait for that moment. But if the moment arrives, if it's you, call 988. And if it's someone else, call 911. Or maybe you do go over there, depending on what they say. Do they have a plan? Do they have lethal means? Maybe you need to come to the house. Maybe you are going to kick in the door, right? But when it comes to saving a life, all of those things they're necessary.
Absolutely. So thank you again, Mr. Gaines. I appreciate you. I look forward to our next connection. It's going to be sooner than you think. So thank you so very much. And for everyone that joined us on our IG Live today, thank you so much for continuing to stay on with us. And I look forward to seeing you all on our next live chat throughout the end of the month. And until next time, continue to be unstoppable.